everyone. So I'm gonna try to do this all in one take, so just bear with me. I have been listening to a lot of stories about what has happened at the International House of Prayer in Kansas City, and as a lot of people know, I was actively a part of the House of Prayer for about 10 years. I was a prayer leader, I worked in the business office, I worked for the bookstore, I worked Sacred Trust office. There's a lot of positions that I held during my time there, as well as working in the marketplace at every chance I could get. I did graduate from the university. So anyway, my name's Danielle. If you don't know me, my name is Danielle Ezra. I came to the International House of Prayer when I was 25. And I was really on fire for the Lord. I had gone to Browns of Revival School Ministry and had served in ministry for 3 years and really had just come for the prayer room as a young 25-year-old. I just wanted the Lord. I was burnt out on ministry and I just wanted God, right? Like, I just wanted the Lord. And I ended up jumping into the school there, and the IHOPKC Student Awakening had happened that my first semester. Which was really amazing, and I was really glad to be there. Like, wow, what a privilege, to be here while this great thing is happening and people are getting healed and like all these things are happening, right? But here's the thing. During my time there, a lot of things happened to me personally that were wrong. But here's the deal, nobody wanted to hear it. Like, anybody that I went to ask for help, they just weren't there to help me. They either threw me under the bus, told me that I was the one that had the problem, and etc. Right? Like, it was, and a lot of the same things that other people are saying that they experienced, and they're just now speaking out about it. I was like, hello. This totally happened to me. I think for me, everything started to go south for me in 2014. I had come in 2009. I jumped right into helping out, prayer leading, all these different things were happening. 2010, 2011, 2012. By 2014, I remember when my whole world came crashing down. I was in a classroom, and somebody who had really looked up to a leader who was actually on the ELT at the time that all this stuff kind of went down this year, kind of stayed after class, and they looked at me and they just decided that they had the right and the authority to just like degrade me for 20 minutes. For 20 minutes, just told me all these horrible things about me. You're this, you're this. He's like, you're too arrogant to have any deep relationships in your life. You'll never da-da-da-da-da. I mean, it was horrible. Here I am standing here, like, as a young 20-something, really looking up to this person. And I knew in my mind, I'm like, I can't cry. I cannot cry. So I just looked at them and I'm like, you're wrong. That's all I could do was like, you're wrong. And they looked at me and said, I hope I am. For your sake, I really hope that I am wrong. And what people don't realize is that happened 1 week. And then the following week, I get pulled aside by another teacher. By the way, let me just say this. I was on a work study scholarship, meaning I had to work at the school doing admin work in order for them to help pay for some of my tuition, because it's an unaccredited institution, so you're paying for everything out of pocket, which I couldn't afford. I did the best I could, I'll say that. And so I remember I'm on a work scholarship, so there's 2 requirements: show up and keep your grades up, right? So the following week, I'm in a class and I get my first grade back. It was supposed to be a rough draft for a paper. That I did. I was working at a coffee shop at the time. I remember I was working at a coffee shop. I did the rough draft. I turned it in. I get my paper and he failed me. And I was like, what? Like, I can't afford to fail. Like, I'm on a work scholarship. Like, what's the deal? Like, I can't. I remember meeting with that teacher, and this is a different teacher, and he looks at me and he says, I said, can you tell me why I failed this paper? Like, it's a rough draft. Like, how could I fail a rough draft? And I remember him looking at me and saying, well, you didn't think about it. And I'm like, what? Like, and I looked at him, I was like, you can't, and I almost laughing, I'm like, you can't tell somebody that they didn't think about something. And I was like, excuse me, are you telling me what I can or cannot say? And I was like, no, but he's like, do you want to argue with me or do you want to learn? And I was like, well, and I was like, you know what? I gotta go. I'm gonna be late to my next class. He said, have a seat. I'll give you a note for your next class. I mean, you guys, it was terrible. Like, terrible. I mean, my mind went into fight or flight mode. Like, I didn't know what to do, and I remember him looking at me and saying, like, how old are you? Like, I feel sorry for you, or something like that. It was just, like, really condescending, degrading, like, all these things, right? And then a couple of days later, I get an email, because I'd been serving in youth ministry, because I love youth to this day. I'm still working with teenagers, but I get an email from the new youth director saying that we will no longer, be needing your services in our youth group anymore. And I'm like, what? So I remember going over to a friend's house, and she was there to like mediate the conversation. And I was like, and I'm crying because I loved working with teenagers. I love the youth. I loved what I was doing. Absolutely loved it. And I was just really upset. Like, why would you do this? Like, I don't understand. I'm like, did I do something wrong? And he's like, no. Did I say something? No. I'm like, well, what is it? And he just looked at me and says, I just feel that you don't respect me as a leader. And I'm like, well, have I ever disrespected you? Like, I'm sorry. He's like, no. I'm like, did I do something? Did I say something? He's like, no. I'm like, well, what? He's like, I don't know. You just do. So you guys, all of this happened within a time period of 2 weeks, okay? 2 weeks. And I was an emotional wreck. Like, I felt like, this is what I told my friend at the time, like, I felt like somebody had come with a knife, stabbed me in the chest, and walked away and left me there bleeding. And I was crying out for somebody to help me, and nobody would help me. And the one person that I did go to that I think would have helped me ends up throwing me under the bus in a leadership meeting and getting me kicked out of school. I'm not kidding. This really happened. 2015, okay? 2015, you guys. This really happened to me. And so I was like, and I remember them sitting in a room and like, this is what we're gonna do. Do you have any questions? And I'm like, no. I mean, obviously there was a lot of objections and a lot of things that I was feeling at the time. But some of them were like mandatory this, and we need to see that, you do better. And by the way, during this time, in between the time of what had happened in those 2 weeks and the meeting to kick me out of school, I will admit I was a little unhinged. So there were a few teachers, bless their hearts, Murray Hebert, Deborah Hebert, if you guys are watching, I'm so sorry. I was a jerk because I felt like nothing I did mattered. It's like nobody could hear me. And I was bleeding and I'm like, help me, and so I was being a brat because I was like, I need help and nobody's helping me. And so it was almost like I just gave into like bitterness and just anger and all the things I was feeling, and so anyway, don't worry, I'm gonna keep going. And so so I have that meeting. They tell me that, they start listing all these rules I'm not allowed to do. I'm not allowed on school property. I'm not allowed, like, all these different things. And I'm like, this is crazy. And I remember talking with the leadership and they're like, I'm like, this is not fair. Like, my friends are here. Like, there's a cafe here. There's like all these things. Like, what do you mean I'm not even allowed on the property? This is bizarre to me. And they looked at me and was like, well, this is what a normal university would do. And I looked at them and I challenged them and I said, this is not a normal university. This is a prayer community. I said, we are a prayer community. And they looked at me and, they were actually pretty cool. And they were like, you're right. I'm really sorry. Let me read. So this leader, actually, I hold in high esteem and high respect. But anyway, but nonetheless, it all still happened. And then, by the way, I did sit in a room with that leader that waylaid me for 20 minutes, and he literally sat there in front of leaders and lied, you guys. To this day, I am so triggered to be sitting in a room with leaders with nobody there for me. I will hit record from now on, because at the end of the day, as Mike Bickle said, oh, it's just a bunch of he said, she said, blah, blah, blah. He said, she said, blah, blah, blah. Like, are you serious? Like, that's what it was deduced down to. Because I did go to Mike, and I was like, hello, this is not good. And he's like, well, no. Like, Anyway, so let's just fast forward a year. I felt like the Lord told me, don't leave, because I really wanted to leave at that point. But I really felt like staying through would help my relationships. You know, how do we build relationships? You know, through trials and tribulation, relationships are strengthened, right? And so like maybe my relationship would be strengthened. I'll keep going to the prayer room. I'll keep loving Jesus, because I mean, at the end of the day, I love the Lord. Like, I love Jesus. Like, I'm not here for them. I'm here for him, for real. And they began to see that after a while. They began to see, oh wow, she's standing 3 feet from that person that ripped her to shreds. Like, how are you doing that? And I'm like, I don't care. My eyes are closed. I'm worshiping the Lord. Doesn't matter. So after a year, I sit in a room, and I come back to the table, to that same room, and we're all sitting there, and I'll never forget it, you guys. I'm at IHOPU, and they said, hey, we're gonna let you come back and finish your senior year, right? It's my senior year, by the way. We're gonna come back and let you finish your senior year here at IHOPU. But there's a few conditions. And he looked at me and he said this, he says, I don't want to hear the name Danielle Ezra at all, like zero. So basically, here's what he said. He said, you know what? People come, they come in this university, they go out. They come in this university, they go out. He's like, I don't even know their names. They come in, they go out. They come in, they go. I don't even know who they are. I need you to be one of those people. I don't want to hear the name Danielle at all, like zero. And then I find out, like, okay, great, keep my head down, sit in the back, don't ask questions, get through my senior year, right? They had told all of my teachers this arrangement. I was screwed, and I knew it going in. And so I'm like, they have literally set up a no-win situation for me. So I filled out my graduation packet and graduated with just 3 years. Because I'm like, this is stupid. I would rather go out deciding to graduate with 3 years than to cater to your level of having the upper hand and like with the little thing, what is this? I'm trying to look for something, little banner there to like expel me whenever you want. Because that was the alternative. It was either you do what we're telling you to, we don't want to hear anything about you ever, or you're expelled and you will never be accepted back. Oh, and by the way, we're telling all of your teachers about this arrangement. So you can imagine the first 2 weeks, teachers are already going to them, right? Like, for whatever reason, she's not participating. Of course I'm not participating. You told me not to. Like, you guys, I'm not kidding. Like, I literally was getting, like, she's already, like, you're already hearing about me because I'm not participating in class. Like, oh, she doesn't have her textbook. It's the second week of class. Half the class doesn't have their textbook. Why? Because we're having to pay for it out of pocket as well as with school and everything else, right? And so, yeah, I don't have my textbook yet. Yes, I'm not participating. 1, I don't have the money. And 2, you told me not to. So I'm keeping my head down. And so at that moment, I knew it was a no-win situation, and I just needed to graduate. So that's exactly what I did. So for those of you that were in those classes at IHOPU, oh, by the way, going back to IHOPU, that was a nightmare too. Because not only were those teachers informed and already saying stuff, the teacher that called me out for those 20 minutes would publicly humiliate me in class. So much so that I had students coming up to me afterwards asking if I was okay. And I was just like, well, yeah, it's fine. Like, no. If I were you, Danielle, I would be crying. I would be in tears right now. And I was like, yeah, it just, because here's the deal with bullies, I don't cower down and cry to bullies. And that was the reason why I'm like, I know I can't cry right now. Like, I have to, you're wrong. I had to do that, because the last thing you want to do to a bully is let them know that they've won something. And I knew that. Even then, in my young 20-something mind, I knew. Why? Because, friend, I've been through stuff, okay? Like, I've been through way worse than this, okay? Some people are making this like their whole thing. And I'm like, I've been through way worse. But I learned that at a young age. The last thing you want to do is show weakness to a bully, because it lets them know that they've won. And they don't deserve that, right? So anyway, that's my story. I did end up going up and graduating. I stopped being in any type of prayer leader position, anything like that, back in 2019 when I left for Australia. And then upon coming back, I helped out with Luke 18, which is amazing. I love Luke 18. I love Ty Lamb, all those guys. And then I started attending a Messianic congregation, which I'm a part of to this day. I'm actually in Israel right now. And I'm just glad all of this stuff is getting exposed, and I actually feel okay to now share my story. So there's my story. There you go. If it's you and you feel bad that you know that I'm talking about you and it's negative, behave better and people will have nothing but nice things to say about you. God bless.